All together, lads. How good was that?
Have we got Sylvester Stallone on?
Freaking hell, boys. How good was that?
Mate, what a tournament. Phenomenal.
Listen, the opening line is out all wrong with Wolverhampton. Isn't that right, Bubsy?
Do you know what? I've always said that the PGA is the best major. Always said that.
There's out all wrong with Wolverhampton.
Look, first some great things come out of Wolverhampton, and he's just one of them. But what a place!
Who'd have thought that, eh? Wolverhampton, epicenter of the social media influencer game, and also superstar to the stars of the PGA Championship. I mean, you couldn't write this stuff, right? Eh?
Listen, the Premier League team might be going down, but Aaron Rai is going up. How good was that?
I saw a local news outlet posted a video. And there were some clips of him when he was a junior golfer. And I tell you what, he's worked a lot on his golf swing. He's worked a lot on his accent. Because when he was 6 or 7, I'm telling you, you needed some subtitles on that thing. So he's lost a lot of that Wolverhampton accent. That's his most impressive feat.
Yeah.
If he'd have kept it, he'd have needed to use the translator. Could have had used it. Oh, that's all Wolverhampton.
Exactly.
Mate, where do you start with this one? Let's start about the man, the myth, the legend, Aaron Rai. Let's start about the golf tournament. Everyone watched it. Do you know, I just want to start with a typical Trottism and his tech situation. So I was out at a kids' footy tournament the whole week and weekend, or worked Saturday, kids' tournament weekend, Sunday, watching the golf. Good hour I was watching it in a bar in between games. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, this is crazy. What's going on? 30 minutes go by, 40 minutes go by. Xander Schauffele takes 3 to get down from the back of one of the greens. I'm like, why would they be showing this? I'm only on the Rory Xander group. I've been watching for an hour thinking, this is bollocks. Why aren't they showing Aaron Rai? Like, what is happening? Anyway, so I actually didn't see much of it, because I was thinking, well, Rahm will probably nick this. And then the boy, so you got to fill me in. I know he drained a long one on 17, but other than that, I was watching Rory and freaking Xander dog it round.
Yeah. Well, I watched a lot of it, to be fair, on that final round. So, and coverage here in the UK, we got a lot of Aaron Rai, which was great. And one thing I will say is that he was phenomenal off the tee. I'm not sure how many fairways he is anyway. Yeah. And they kept going on and on and on about the fact that he's not the longest in the field, but he was still averaging 310. It's not like he was short and dinking it around, shorter than your likes of Rory and your Brooks and your Rahms, etc. But I tell you, he was in play time and time again. It was kind of like old school golf, which is what they did reference a few times in the coverage. You know, hit the fairways, hit the greens, and that was his approach. It wasn't about overpowering the course. And I thought he did a great job. And what's great, we all know him. You know, we all know him, and he's such a lovely bloke. What a nice guy. So I genuinely, when he was coming down the stretch and he holed that one on 17, literally I was just fist pumping down around the living room. It was amazing. Great to see.
Big Lloyd's just come in here with 67.86%, 38 out of 56 fairways, which people would be like, 68% fairways, pretty naff that. This ain't freaking your local Muni, boys. This is a hard, firm, fast golf course. 73.6. That's Lloyd bringing us the stats here, everyone. Lloyd, if anyone needs stats, he's available for all podcasts. 74% of greens, 53 out of 72. The boy is on the stats this morning. But, I mean, ridiculous. And I just want to add, because I'll get in there first, I think he uses a TaylorMade bubble driver he's in.
I think
not my doing. Not my doing, lads. Not my doing.
2019. I mean, look, off the top of my head, I can't remember all the majors that have gone in the last 15, 20 years, but there can't be many major champions in the last decade who've finished the way he's finished. And when I say finished the way he's finished, I don't mean winning by 3, but from the 8th, from 9 onwards, the last 10 holes, he genuinely didn't miss a shot, didn't miss a swing. I think he missed one green, but that was like 13, 14 when he's hit an absolute laser from the fairway. He's just hit a firm part of the green and hopped over the back. But he's hit every fairway. He's hit it in exactly the right part on the green. He's holed the putts he needed to hole. Just so impressive. But what's crazy is he does go a little bit under the radar because he doesn't have social media, because he doesn't hit it 340, because he doesn't fist pump when he makes a birdie. He does go a little bit under the radar. And you look at the way he played, and you look at how solid he was, and there's going to be a lot of people watching that tournament going, geez, how good's this kid played? The people who are close to him see him do that week in, week out. That's how he plays golf. He is, and he has been for a long, long time, one of the best ball strikers on the PGA Tour. He just doesn't always put that well. His short game stats maybe aren't as good as they could be, which is why he doesn't win that often. But that's his golf game. He's always been like that. He's a phenomenal ball striker. There won't be many tournaments where he is not the straightest and he's not hitting the most greens. He's just unbelievable with the long clubs. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, let me tell you a little story actually about Rai when he first came on. There's two parts. No, it's true story.
No, you.
So basically, well, the first bit is I was at a function. I want to say it was like a Kevin Peterson golf day or something like that, or whatever it was. Anyway, I was in London, and I was on the same table as Piers and Andy. Cricket friends. And anyway, while I was with my cricket friends, I was on the same table as Piers and Andy. And Piers says to me, mate, this is when I was still working at TaylorMade. He says, mate, I've got this guy. His name's Aaron Rai. I don't know if you've heard of him just yet, but he's actually good. He's really good. Is there any chance that you guys might be able to support him with equipment? And I'm like, Aaron who? And I didn't really know who he was talking about. You know, he was pretty much coming through the Euro Pro Tour, you know, at that time. So really early stages in his career. Anyway, about 4 or 5 months go by. We are supporting him with clubs. About 4 or 5 months go by. And it turns out he's now starting to play Challenge Tour events. So we're at Galgorm Castle, which is in Northern Ireland. And I say to him and his dad, hey, look, let's just go out for dinner. Let's just have a chat. So we go out for dinner. A couple of the other guys at TaylorMade as well. We're just out for food and just get to know him a little bit better. So I asked the question. I said, look, you know, I mean this respectfully, but usually guys that, especially in the England setup, guys that are coming through the ranks, we've generally heard of those guys well in advance. I'm trying to understand like your background and what, you know, your journey to this point, you know, to get to the Challenge Tour. And we start talking about his amateur career. And he said that he went to do some stuff with England and county coaching and all that kind of stuff. And he said, so they came to the house, they had a meeting with his family, they laid out what his goals were to the England people, etc. And they were like, yep, no problem, we can work with all that. That all sounds great. So he's then gone for these training camps. And then he soon discovered that everyone was trying to change his swing, change his game, change his approach. So he thought to himself, do you know what? This isn't going to work for me. This approach is only going to help me be a good amateur when actually my goal is to become a good golf pro. So he turned his back on amateur golf at quite a young age. I want to say he was like 14, maybe 15, to then start to approach the game like a golf pro at that age, which is why he was never really on the radar because he never came through the normal ranks. He just worked his way from one tour to the next tour. And, you know, he won the Scottish Open and he's won some big events in Europe. Not many events, but the ones that he wins are generally big ones. And now he's gone on to be a successful PGA Tour pro and a major winner. Like, honestly, I could not be prouder of the guy based on how he started out and that, you know, little experience that I had with him at dinner at Galgorm Castle, just learning about his background and his approach to the game. And I love the fact that he's approached it like a pro, not as an amateur. Brilliant. Such a great story.
Take some minerals from the old man, though, to turn around and be like, you know, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, and guide your son into a different avenue. Because, you know, I've experienced it now firsthand with kids' soccer. And it's like you take the path of those around you thinking that's the guidance you should be getting. But I think it goes back to everything. I think people around you have the interest of the club or themselves or whatever business they're working for back right. You've got to just do what's right for you as an individual. And that, at this early stage, I think is what gives success. And here's another example of it.
His dad is an incredible guy. You can definitely see where Aaron gets it from. People will probably know that Piers and Andy have coached Aaron from a very, very young age. I'm very close with Piers and Andy. Yeah, me and my golf. I'm very close with those guys, known them since I was 13. So I'm not going to sit here in this podcast and say me and Aaron are best friends, but I've had the privilege of playing a fair bit of golf with him over the years.
Me and you best friends.
Oh, absolutely, besties. Apart from when anybody calls me Bubbles, and I remember who gave me that nickname.
Yeah.
Say me and Trotty are best friends, so Aaron can't be your best friend because I'm.
There's only room for one. But, if I need to borrow some cash, I'm going to Aaron though, not you.
Well, he don't spend it anyway, the poor lad.
Yeah. But I've been lucky enough to spend a bit of time around Aaron, and played a bit of golf with him, and met his dad. His dad's a lovely guy, Amric. And you say there, he's guided him incredibly well. And he's done such a good job with Aaron. And I think, you listen to him speak afterwards, a lot of what Amric's taught Aaron is just life skills that he can apply to golf. But his dad isn't a golfer. So he's kind of had the kahunas to sort of say, look, this is what I think is best for my son. And he's done an incredible job. And like you say, Darryl, he hasn't gone through the right routes, but the people around him. And I've got so many stories about Aaron just being a good person more than anything else. I remember we played in one of the lads, it was his birthday, and we played at a golf course, and the idea was we were going to play a bit of golf and then go some food. And I think there was like 12 of us, maybe slightly less, and we played 3 or 4 groups on the course, and we came off, and I wasn't playing with Aaron, he was playing with Piers behind me, and he struggled on the greens. And this is just like a casual round at a little club. So we all went to the clubhouse, had a beer, and he wanted to work on his putting, Aaron did, because he was frustrated. But being a good person comes before anything. And I remember he came off the golf course, and we were all sat in the clubhouse outside on the terrace, and he came over to everybody and said, guys, I'm not being rude, just let you know, I'm just going to go and spend a bit of time on the putting green because I want to work on my putting. And it's just like, he's so dedicated. But before it was about him, it was about just making sure that he was going to be polite and he wasn't going to be seen as rude. And he's like, that sums him up really, that he's so dedicated. No one will work harder than him, but he's also a great person before that. And I can't see him ever changing that.
Yeah. But you don't want him to change. You want him to be like that forever. And you're right, though. His dad is the same. His mother's the same. Always really respectful, polite, always happy to see you as well. They see your face and they go, oh, how are you doing? You all right? Da, 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 da. Have a little chat for 2 minutes. Like really, really nice people. So nice.
You love all that as well. Like you love a chat about just bollocks.
I do love a chat about bollocks. We know that you don't, which is kind of ironic considering how much you consume of this podcast time. But you do actually talk bollocks, whereas, the likes of Aaron Rai talk sense. So
that's why I get on with you. I do like it. You listen to me and I just get to talk. It works for me. You know what I mean?
It works, yeah. As long as it works for you. It doesn't work for me, but it works for you.
But when you look at how he's got to this point and becoming a major champion, there's not many who have this sort of route, because as you say, he went through Euro Pro. It's not even called Euro, doesn't exist anymore. Kind of did all right on that, won. Went to Challenge Tour, did all right, won. Went on European Tour, did all right, won Hong Kong. Next level was he won the Scottish, which was a Rolex event. Got himself onto the PGA Tour, did all right, then won the Wyndham. Then the next level was to win a major. He's just literally just gone step by step by step by step by step. And you look at that career and what he's done over the last 8, 9, 10 years, there's no signs of it slowing down. I'm not suggesting he's going to go and win 14 majors, but he's still on that upward trajectory at the moment. And that, I was talking to Piers on Saturday, actually, sent him a few messages. Like, they're super excited about where he could go because he is legit absolute major champion, but there's no reason why he can't win more of these. And he is, speaking to Piers, he's sometimes a little bit conservative when he plays, and you can kind of see that in his approach. And they've actually spent a bit of time with him trying to get him to be a little bit more aggressive to certain pins because he's so good. So when you've got a tournament where it's tough, people are making bogeys, a single digits under par wins it, those are the events where he's going to really thrive. And you think, what are those events? They're typically the majors. They're the Masters, the PGAs, the US Opens. Those are the events where he really shines.
Yeah.
What do you think about the consistency of, I think if we look at the setup and we're touching on it, it's the consistency. So he's been with the lads forever. Saw an interview this morning, they posted it, and Piers is very much, well, actually, they're both very much like this, aren't they? As you do get to know Piers and Andy. I'm not sure if they're subscribers on their Me and My Golf, which is, if you don't know it, extremely successful teaching subscription product that they run. Those guys were, I think everyone admits it, they were the OG when it came to teaching and YouTube. A quick story on those two. I'm now going to tell a few stories on those two, but They Three Hammers is, I won't tell the good ones. Three Hammers is a short game golf course.
Hang on, we want to try and get Piers on the podcast.
Yeah. No. I can tell all of these. I won't tell the real ones. So Three Hammers is a short course in Wolverhampton. Wolverhampton is a blue-collar working class town in the Midlands in the UK. My grandparents actually lived in Wolverhampton. So as a kid, we'd joke, and I would always they lived on 56 Oxley Moor Road, and that's near the Three Hammers. So I used to go to the Three Hammers. My granddad would take me down there. He didn't play golf. He'd just take me down, and I'd walk around, hit shots, and I was young. Obviously the lads ended up working there. We all majored at the Belfry. But Aaron Rai starts going there as a kid and then meets these lads. I mean, Proudy was in the shop at 17, 18. He met Piers a little later, but he touched on it today and they posted it. And I think this is not something that's covered because they've actually helped me a lot. Both of them, believe it or not. They're like very good at, if you've got decisions to make in your career or your life, they're far more than just golf coaches. They're good golf coaches. Of course they are. But I have pretty good golf knowledge. I can fix my golf swing a lot of times. I've got 1,001 mates who are golf coaches. So, I can get that information. But what they do, and I think that's what's made them successful in the tour environment, is they help you deal with situations. And I have a screenshot that I keep on my own desktop of the very first thing I did socially. And it was a podcast with Piers and Andy. And Piers said to me at the end of the podcast, it was filmed at TaylorMade, and he said, listen, it was the first post I ever made on Trotty Golf. And he said, the bit I skipped is they left Three Hammers, travelled Australia. Andy Proudman has a sesame allergy. And I was living in Hong Kong, running TaylorMade, sports marketing Asia. My missus went back to England for a few days, and they came to stay in Hong Kong. And they booked accommodation in the red light district, not knowing it was a red light district, because it was the back end of an Australia trip, and they wanted cheap accommodation. And basically, I said to the two of them, like, lads, what are you doing? Like, come and stay in the apartment with me. So they came, and we had these tickets for the gym. And of course, I hadn't really used these tickets for the gym. So Piers and Andy, certainly Andy, smashed the tickets in the gym, like smashed them. So got me up to speed on that. But there was a squash court. So we ended up playing these squash tournaments in the middle of Hong Kong, me and the lads. And it made me laugh because, everywhere we're going in the middle of freaking Asia, Andy can't eat sesame. And I'm like, mate, you're going to kill yourself here. Like, there's no chance. Like, everything's got sesame everywhere. On it. You're literally going to kill yourself. But on that trip, I get to America and they get me on the podcast, and then they were like, "Oh, we're doing this thing called Me and My Golf TV," and I was like, "Me and My Golf TV? What on this social media channel? Social media? What are you talking about? They called YouTube. You put videos on. What a load of bollocks!" Like, they were just lost looking for what they were going to do. Found their way, found their calling, went off, did a phenomenal job, dressed the same, looked the same, did whatever they did, like pair of Muppets. Used to take the piss, didn't we, for fun? Like I did anyway. And, made a great success of it. Really stoked for them. But I remember that, like, Piers said to me after this podcast in America, we do it. And he says to me, listen, mate, I was getting frustrated with TaylorMade a little bit because it was a corporate structure. I'd lived all over the world. Like, where's it going? And he said, you really need to, it's time. Like, you need to dive into this space and you need to talk about some of the stories and the experience. You've got good personality. You've got good stories. You know the equipment space. Arguably, no one knows it better than you. You don't talk about it. And I remember that with TaylorMade in England, when we built a new trailer, which I think they might have built another trailer since, we got the Formula One crew to build the thing. And they're in Oxford, and we went to Oxford to sort of see the trailer, make sure everyone was happy with the way it lined up, much like a fast food chain. You get your meat here, then you get your bread, then you get your lettuce, then you cook it, and it moves around. And that's how we make golf clubs, same thing. And we got invited to the Ferrari garage for the Formula One Silverstone. And we go in, and there was a silver-haired chap in there, Italian bloke. And I remember watching the team, and we walk in, bunch of young lads, all with TaylorMade on our hats and stuff. And like one of the lead mechanics is like, hey, flipping Pedro, or whatever this fella's name was, you get up and give the tour to the lads. So this silver-haired Italian fella, Roberto Baggio, a few years on, takes his gloves off, gets off the car, turns it on, the charisma, gives the big tour. See you, lads. Next group behind us, Dell Technology or whatever, does the same. And I remember leaving and being in somewhere like Memphis with the TaylorMade guys and the PGA Tour. We were in New York or somewhere. And we're all like at the machines working. And Wade goes, "Hey, Troy, media coming in, like, deal with it." So I'm like, all right, whatever. So freaking put the tools down, deal with the media, talk to them about what's going on. They go off, "Hey, Troy, Japanese media coming in. You've worked in Asia. Deal with it." Fair enough. All right, guys. I'm doing these tours, and I had a flashback to the Silverstone Ferrari garage. And I'm like, this is me here. Like, I'm traveling week to week. And this guy in the Ferrari garage looked beat up and over it. And I'm a bit like, I'm doing the same deal. Like, it's awesome. But this is probably the pinnacle of it all. That's when Piers then said to me, you should maybe just try. And I was like, well, you don't really talk. When you're working with the best players in the world, you don't talk about it. And he's like, but you got to do it in a structured way. Gave me loads of help. So it's a long-winded story of saying that when Aaron posted this morning, and it was me, Piers and Andy that posted, and they talked about, like, they're more to him than a golf coach. I think there are a lot of coaches out there that are earlier in their journey than I am and Bubsy is, and they want to coach on tour. They think tour is the pinnacle. And look, if you're going to be the best in the business, at some point you have to be on tour. I'm not saying that. But I think that they think that the coaching stops at, well, he hits 67.86% of fairways and he hits 73.61% of greens at a major championship, and you go on and win. Zero chance. So it's a very long-winded way of saying that if you look at the journey of Piers and Andy as people and as things they've been prepared to learn about, and, even at times, I will be honest, I got lost a little bit on those two when they were going off and doing, like, they went to some Tony Robbins things, didn't they, where they were walking on coal and shit. And I was like, lads, you fucking lost the plot here. Like, how's this help someone hit a flipping 5-iron? Like, I'm not getting this. But as I have matured a little bit, I think I start to understand why they've done it and what it's given them as golf coaches. And I do think, and this is why I'm really happy about this situation, it's validation. Even when Aaron came out on tour, he would wear the black hat a lot with the small Me and My Golf logo, and you couldn't tell what it was. Like, even the little things, they've been around all the people at Adidas. They've been around all the people in sports marketing. Aaron's got that nice looking white hat on with a big contrasting logo that you can't put a number on the marketing dollars that is worth for exposure. It'll go down in history now because he's won, which means their brand will go down in history, which means their legacy will continue. And I think for me in golf, if your legacy can go on, which now they've got that, second Englishman to win the PGA since 1919, going to go on forever, and their brand's in it. And I think I've only texted with Piers and Andy and the usual bollocks like, well done, boys, whatever. But I think when I get a chance to speak to them, I tried to make them both sit down and realize they passed 1 million subscribers on YouTube or something. And I tried to say to them both, like, lads, this is a big deal. Like, you were idiots playing squash, avoiding Sesame in Hong Kong in the flipping flat, using all my gym tokens, which I'm not going to use anyway, truth be told. But, like, this is a big deal. And I do think that they were like, no, we want this, this, and this. And I don't know. I think successful people never really know where the final destination is. And they're definitely of that cut of cloth. But it's amazing. And I've had it a few times in life with people I can count on one hand. It's amazing how much they want others to succeed, almost more than them. And that is unbelievable. They don't care if you're freaking other grocery guy and you lay out your mangoes on a Sunday. Like, they want you to be the best grocery mango layer in freaking wherever you are. And that, I think, is the biggest piece of credit I can give. And to have a player like Aaron, it's early, represent you and talk about you the way he does, spectacular. So there's so many more layers to what they do. I think it's totally fair. I think you boys would agree. I'm sure everyone's got a Piers and Andy story, but I don't know how you sum up the success of those guys. I've got a lot to talk about with Aaron's equipment, which everyone does, but you might want to add a little bit into that, lads.
No, I mean, I think you've just said it incredibly there. It's rare now to find any tour winner who hasn't got a coach, but a lot of the tour winners, a lot of the major winners, will have been with the coach for a couple of years, or the coach just picked them up when they got on tour. It's pretty rare now to pick up a kid at 8, 9, 10 years old.
It's 2 decades, mate.
Coach him all the way through from Europro all through the stages, you know, like you say, managing his game, also helping him, you know, helping his kid turn into a man and being there, like he said in his interview, there almost like brothers as part of his family, and then being supportive and taking him all the way through that. And I sent Piers a message on Saturday, just a voice note, and just kind of said a few words to him about what was happening. And, you know, so many coaches would dive in there and just mess this guy up. Because he has got a slightly unique swing. You know, it's not orthodox the way he moves it. You know, we can talk about that a little bit more if we want. But yeah, just to take someone from a very young age, support them and guide them, and then have it turn into this. It's pretty rare, that is.
But it's how, like, think about Aaron's journey, and you know, mate, we're not even going there in the comparison. But having been like, played a few Challenge Tour events, wanted to play, I constantly scratched for what can I do better? And in the end, I made myself worse. And in the end, you know, I fell into this equipment world really through the constant search to be better. And you skip from coaches, football clubs, skip from managers to managers. But to find a coach who they learn with him, the walking on the coals thing is learning with him. And they pushed him as much as he pushed them. And I having, again, going through it now in a world that's not mine with kids soccer, good coaches. Hard. I ain't found one yet. And I've been at this now with my guy for a couple of 3 years. I ain't found one. I found one, but then you go through that and it's like, okay, what's the next? The thing is, you reach what that coach believes in, and then are you done? Is that you? Where are you going from there? And I think that's the amazing thing for me. And I've got to touch on it because I've got to leave before you boys get done here. But like, I want to talk about the casualties and the people that take the piss out of that. He uses the pink. A casualty is a structured height that has a stanchion on it or a buffer on the tee that stops it going in past a certain level. So he maintains the consistency of the tee height every time. And it's something generally that's given to happy hamburgers who don't know how to flip and peg a golf ball in the ground, because believe it or not, in this game, there are people who struggle to put a tee in the ground. So they're like, okay, you use this tee and the pink one's a certain height and the yellow one's a certain height and the orange one's a certain height, and off you go. There's my dog. And it's professional setup here at the Trotty Golf establishment. And basically on the pink tee height, he's gone for this consistency, and then he's got this M6 driver, which is old, but he has this mindset that he wants consistency. And before I let you lads go on this and you can chime in, I'm done with the double glove talk and I'm done with the iron cover talk. I think it's bollocks. I've known about that since from the day that Piers and Andy started teaching him. I took the piss for 30 seconds and then I realised the kid just does what the fuck he wants. And I think at the end of the day, stop talking about, and like the American media now is laying on it. Guys, he's come from freaking Wolverhampton. He had a nice set of golf clubs when he was a kid and he whacked some iron covers on it and it means a lot to him. Let it go. He wears 2 gloves. I'm done with it. Let it go. The boy is a freaking baller. Like, let's get on the casualties at least. You know what I mean? Because, mate, that casualty, when I talk about with my fitting, tee height's crucial. And the guy, I have an old mate of mine I work a lot with on swing, and he's always like, if you're struggling, I get out of my pivots, won't get into it, I get back and back up and flip. He's like, go driver off the deck, because you can't back up and flip. And the more I think about Aaron Rai, and the more I think about tee height, and the more I think about club delivery and face angles. And I mean, TaylorMade this week have said that they're launching driver now every 2 years. I don't know if you boys saw that in the media.
Good, yeah.
That's a huge thing, Bubsy, for golf equipment, revenue, sale. They're like, we're innovating now once every 2 years. So it does validate consistency wins. And I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to let you lads run from here, because I've not gone 47% this week. I've not done it. I've gone more like 73.61%, which is the amount of greens that Aaron hit to win the PGA. So I'm out. I'm done. You lads carry on. I'm sitting back. Dissect that. Now. Dissect that, bitches.
Go on, Dazzler.
I don't know what to say now. I'm like obliterated.
Dissect it. Tee height. The dog's in. The dog will talk.
Dog will talk. Look, on a serious note, though, the one thing I really picked up there is that element of consistency. You know, I do think a lot of the best players in the world rarely change. They don't look for change. They look for ways to get. You know, they've all hit a great shot. That's the thing. They've all hit a great shot at some point in their career. So I think what the best players are really good at is making the game less complicated, not more complicated. And it's the same as in business, right? You know, it's very easy to make things complicated, but actually the skill in everything is to make it really, really simple. And I think that's how Aaron has been able to dissect his own game. How can he find ways to just be consistently hitting fairways, consistently hitting greens, consistently giving himself a chance time and time again? I mean, he even admitted on that 17th green where he holed that putt, phenomenal putt, by the way, but he said in the interview after he wasn't trying to hold the putt. So it almost surprised him that he did hold the putt, but all he was looking for was the 2-putt from that range. Turned out he holed it. That's just a nice little Brucey bonus. So I do like the way that he keeps it all simple, but I also like the way that he's really stubborn on the way that he approaches it. The 2 gloves, the castle tee, the iron covers is not necessarily a stubborn factor about his game. It's obviously more about appreciating his upbringing. And I love all of that type of stuff. And I just love the fact that, you know, he doesn't care what anyone else says. And I've got a lot of time for that.
Consistent, not stubborn. Consistent, I would say.
Yeah, but you've still got to be stubborn in your viewpoint, right? Because consistency is great, but it is easy if someone is taking the piss out of you all the time for your iron covers. I think a lot of more delicate people would have at some point folded, and they would have gone, yeah, actually, that is a bit stupid. Whereas he's never done that. And I think that's it's the good side of stubborn. It's not stubborn as in to be a wanker. It's the stubborn to be, yeah, this is good. Like I'm focused on the outcome. I'm focused on the vision, and I'm not flexing. That's it.
I think there's an interesting discussion here around consistency and what people think consistency is and what it isn't. I've coached that many golfers over the years who this is the word that comes up more than anything else. You know, what do you want in your golf game? I want consistency, and what they mean really is they just want to be better. Because when you look at a golf swing and you look at a club delivery, so path and face and attack angle, very often the best players in the world are not consistent. And that's exactly where Aaron is, because when you look at lots of what he does, his coach is consistent. He's been with the same strength and conditioning coach for decades, consistent. He's going to be with the same caddy, consistent. Same tee height, consistent. Same way of practice, consistent. Same gym routine, consistent. If you look at him hit balls on the course, it's anything but. Because he is one of the very few players now who will, with driver, with irons, work the ball both ways. It's very rare, according to Piers, that he'll just hit like a stock straight shot. Every shot that he hits, he'll categorize it in ball flights as 1, 2, or 3. 1 is low, 2 is medium, 3 is high. So any shot he's hitting, he's either a draw or a fade, or he will shoot it straight, and it's got a flight window. So you look at what he does, there is so much consistency there. But if you could look at his path and his attack angle and the loft that he's producing and the ball flight, if you look at his shots on a shot tracer, I mean, it's going to look like they're all over the place. So it's almost like a case of I want to be super consistent in some areas to then allow my skill to show through in other areas. I think that's a really important point. You can't be variable everywhere. You need some consistency that you can fall back on. I mean, you know, we've kind of gone through this stage.
You've got to talk about the 1, 2, 3 thing a bit more. Don't move on past that. Carry on, but talk about it, because I know the number thing is a big thing with them. So you do that.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say, you know, it seems like we've gone through this phase. I'm not suggesting he's going to change the way golf is played going forwards, but you look at a Bryson, you know, he's pretty much hitting that one shape with his driver. It's a big draw. He's trying to bomb it down there. There aren't many golfers who've broken through into the top echelons of the game, winning majors, like Aaron, who you know, shapes it. Tiger was very good at it. Maybe not so much with the driver, but certainly with irons, he would, you know, flight it, shape it, you know, to suit the golf course. And Aaron's very much in that camp. So I just think it's good. I think, you know, when you look at ambassadors for the game, it's great to have your Brysons, YouTube, you know, Flair player. Rory's the same. Aaron's never going to have a YouTube channel. He's never going to be fist pumping, but he is a great ambassador for the game in his own right. And I just think the way he plays it is quite refreshing. But so what do you want to do? Talk about the flights a bit more?
1, 2, 3.
I know that you know a lot about the coaching side of the 1, 2, 3, and I also know that Piers has talked differently to me about they try and grade lie angles on numbers. Has Piers gone through that with you about the numbers and the 1, 2, 3, and just the control of being able to hit those different flight windows? And I realise I interrupted you there. That's totally shit interviewing technique, so I do apologise. But
Standard.
I was just all fucking fired. I was fired up, Dazzler. I was fired up. Want to hear about the 1, 2, 3?
Up.
Well, I think when you look at maybe a regular PGA tournament that's played on a golf course in the US, greens are often soft. And so when the greens are soft and you've got control of when that ball lands, and let's say the fairways are soft as well, you can hit it right to left and pretty much access any pin. You can hit left to right and pretty much access any pin. But when you start to get the courses that run a little firmer, a little faster, and we saw that the course did get a little firmer, a little faster over the weekend, it suddenly becomes harder to stop the ball. And so you start to then have to use trajectory and spins and curvature. I think that's why he does so well in these tough golf courses, where his ability to shape it both ways really kind of separates him from the field. But yeah, basically he will have, with any club really, a draw, a straight and a fade. And then he'll have these kind of flight windows. So 1 is low, 2 is medium, 3 is high. And he's basically just changing attack angle and launch angle. So if he needs the ball to stop a little quicker, he's probably going to hit a 3 fade, which is a left to right shot for him. And it's a higher ball flight, so it comes down a little softer. If there's a back left pin, he's going to hit a right to left shot on a mid flight to help him kind of get that ball releasing. I mean, he hit, I think it was 15. He hit an incredible high drawing iron into that flag, literally just nearly crept over the top of the mound. If it had, it would have been down to a couple of feet, but that was a long second shot that he's hit a draw in. And then you see him on the 16th hole, par 5, hitting a big high cut with a 4 iron to within 15, 20 feet. And to be able to move it right to left with an iron and then left to right with an iron and change trajectory on a Sunday in a major when you've never been there, I mean, that's just, the balls to do that is incredible, and to trust that is the way to play the game. But I think that's really where I was watching thinking, this guy's got it. To be able to choose the shot shape that the course is basically telling you need to hit, rather than just choosing the one that you feel comfortable hitting, I think that's an incredible skill.
So we all know that he relies quite a bit on data, though, and lets the numbers dictate how he plays, little Fitzpatrick-esque kind of way. How much do you think he stood there and was like, well, I know data-wise, if I do this, this, and this, I'm golden? Rather than getting so lost in oh shit, if I do this, this, and this, I've got to beat Jon Rahm.
I personally, just my assessment, both just observing it from a distance and then also close up, I think he's so process driven and so intentional in the way that he approaches each moment, almost each step he takes on the golf course. I don't even think he thinks about it. I don't think he allows his mind to go, Jon Rahm is hunting me down, or I don't think he lets his emotional guard down in that sense. I think he just follows the process time and time and time again, and that's all he does. And I think that's a powerful skill, which I actually think is really the true definition when it comes back to the consistency, that he can only control what he can control. So all he will do is have that intentional sort of, purposeful mannerism and approach to ensure that he gets the best out of every shot, both from the time he spent with the Me and My Golf boys from a young age. I think he was 11 years old. They started coaching him. All of these things through all of this time has just led to a repeatable process that he just takes onto the golf course, and that's it. No emotion.
So I've spoken to Piers a little bit about a couple of things that he does, and I hope I'm not talking out of turn here and saying things that are confidential, but what they've done with him.
Whoa. Sign the waiver. Sign the waiver before you get going. There must be a waiver. NDA. Sign the fucking thing.
You talk about sort of process and stuff, and I think Aaron will sort of, well, he's going to basically outwork everybody else. That's what he wants to do. But there's two things that they've told me that I'm hoping I'm okay to share, but he's very, very disciplined. Like you say, very much a Fitzpatrick. And they were talking to him. Obviously, they're not at every tournament with him. And they're trying to speak to him after tournaments and find out what he did well and what he did wrong. And they figured out that he was getting the pin positions for the following day. And when he had those pin positions, he was then basically looking at it and planning out his whole round of golf. based on where he wants to be on the fairway, where he wants to be on the green due to slopes and that kind of stuff, which makes a huge amount of sense. But if he was Thursday, Friday at a PGA Tour event, early tee time, late tee time, he was playing late on the Friday, whatever time that may be, finishing at sort of 5, 6 o'clock, grabbing some food, and then doing his prep for the next day and going to bed at like 2 a.m. And they're like, mate, like,
can't do that.
Prepping is good, but it's not going to trump, getting your sleep. And I'm not sure it was the first major, but it was one of the early majors he got into. It was actually the PGA Championship, and I can't remember where it was. Piers and Andy went with him, and he didn't do particularly well. I think he missed the cut. And I remember speaking to Piers afterwards and said, Thursday morning, first tee, he was cooked because he'd got there like the Saturday. He'd played like 18 on the Saturday. He'd played 18 on the Sunday. He'd hit balls afterwards. He'd putted afterwards. Did the same Monday. Did the same Tuesday. Did the same Wednesday. There till like 10 o'clock on the putting green. And so what they've had to do with him a little bit is actually rein in what he's doing and saying, look, I understand that you're trying to outwork everybody and you're trying to cover every base, but there's got to be a point where you're prioritizing your rest and your recovery and your sleep and that kind of stuff. So, it just speaks a little bit to what you were saying there about Trotter. They're more than just coaches. It's more about looking at the whole picture and saying, well, what have I got to do to perform the best? And he is incredibly disciplined. He's very incredibly calculated, and he's obviously just found that sweet spot of putting the work in, but also getting the rest as well.
It's amazing. So listen, boys, I mean, talking about discipline, your boy right here is disciplined. I've got another phone call. That's how disciplined I am. I've got to go. It's not going to be as joyful as chatting to you two lads about Aaron Rai. Let me just tell you that. But I've got to love you and leave you, which is why I went heavy talking early in this podcast.
Just this one. Just this podcast. You've gone.
I found an extra 6% here, kid, with my Castle tea.
I can see you now. Next time I play golf with you, you'll be whipping out your pink teas. Come on, lads, get Castle teas out.
Nah, I'm consistent now. I only dick around with things that I feel are really worth dicking. My game's shit. We ain't getting there. This is about Aaron Rai.
I can't believe that for the last 20 odd years I've been getting stick about being from Wolverhampton, and then as soon as there's a winner from Wolverhampton, we suddenly hear that Trotty's got family there and he played golf. I kept that secret for 20 years here.
Listen, Piers knew that my family were on 56 Oxley-Moore Road. I told him. And Kev
I'll tell you another thing about Wolverhampton. When I first started Rocket Yard, my first investor was the CEO of Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club. There you
Fantastic.
Go. So everything.
Listen, I gotta go.
Everything happens in Wolverhampton. See you later. See you. Bye-bye.
Carry on. You put a bow on it. Everyone stay listening to the beautiful people. I'm going to hit this red button and leave it to upload. Ta-da.
Ta-da, mate. Hey, Bubs, I do have a question because you kind of intimated it earlier. You're talking about the fact that he didn't have or doesn't have a more orthodox golf swing. Now, what do you mean by that? Because he's hitting a lot of fairways and a lot of greens.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at the way the club is delivered to the ball, it's pretty orthodox. Any major champion is going to be pretty orthodox, but the way he moves the club around his body isn't what you'd class as orthodox. I mean, if you break the sort of the golf thing down into some sections, if you look at the way he moves his body, pretty orthodox, right? In terms of his pivot and his extension, his rotation, that's pretty orthodox. Club face position through the swing, again, pretty orthodox. Gets it a little bit strong on the way down, but lots of good players do that. But it's really his trail arm. And it's actually quite funny because if you look at what he does with his trail arm, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in a moment, it's pretty much what a lot of amateurs struggle with.
Really?
It's kind of difficult to explain on a podcast, but basically your trail arm has got different movements available to it, and from your trail shoulder you've got internal external rotation, and the majority of good players would get that trail arm very much in external rotation to set the club, and they'd hold it in external rotation. Amateurs tend to go the opposite way, internal, which basically means the elbow gets kind of away from your side, and when you look from face on, there's a bit of a gap between the side of your body and your elbow. And Aaron's got a lot of that in there. You look at the way he moves his trail arm, it kind of doesn't work like you would see it in an Adam Scott or a Tiger Woods, and so his hands get a little bit deep going back, and then on the way down, that trail elbow kind of moves away from his side a little bit. But the beauty with coaching is knowing what to say, what to change, what to leave alone, and obviously that's not something that ever needs to be fixed in his golf swing. Doesn't necessarily. What I think the interesting takeaway from this is, I wouldn't want any golfer out there who has been told that their right arm doesn't work well to go, well, Aaron's just won the PGA, so I don't need to change it in my golf swing. It probably does need to change in your golf swing if you're an amateur golfer. He just happens to play with it. So really, when I say not orthodox, there's a lot of things that are good. It's just the way his trail arm works is a little bit unique. And there's not probably many players who you'd put in that category.
Do you think, I saw a video this morning when he was, I don't know, he must have been like 6 or 7 years of age, swinging a golf club that was too long for him, probably too heavy for him. And it's almost weird because that signature type of swing that he has now, it looks, it's obviously not the same because he's a man now, the muscle development's all different, etc. But there's a lot of similarity, and you look and you go, yeah, that's Aaron Rai's golf swing. Do you think that, and I think this applies to all golfers, by the way, especially ones that start young. Do you think the weight of those clubs, the length of those clubs right in the very beginning must have had an impact on how that trailing arm moves now?
It's got to, yeah, because the movements that you develop early very often stay with you. And we can see it with lots of golfers. You look at the clips of Rory hitting irons into the tumble dryer of the washing machine. It's very, very noticeably Rory, even though he's 6-7 years old. So I think the golf swing that you have, it's almost like a fingerprint. It stays with you. And I think when you get a player like Aaron, who's clearly talented, and he was from a very young age, you kind of want to keep that fingerprint there. You want to keep that style of swing. And that's what I think the great coaches do. They work within the player's style as opposed to trying to completely change it. And especially when you've got someone like Aaron, who from a young age, displays a lot of the things you'd expect to see with good players, the quality of strike, the ability to shoot good scores. You kind of looking at that going, this kid's got something. We just need to refine what's happening, but you don't want to change the big motor patterns. But yeah, absolutely. If the golf clubs are not right, that's going to influence the way you move. I've seen it with my boys. I actually started playing them again this year, took a bit of time off over the winter. Clubs are way too short. They just had a massive growth spurt, and that changes how they stand the ball, and that changes how they swing. And you kind of look at it and go, look, it's not them intending to move differently, but the golf clubs that they're using are controlling the movement. So yeah, I think it absolutely has an influence. But yeah, just I think it's always going to be this. It's always going to be a bit of an issue for kids because they grow so quickly. But the golf clubs now are incredible. They're so light. My boys got these tailor-made junior clubs, and they're great because they're lighter and they're really easy for them to move.
Might need to get those sets from me for that, Gronem. Not just for me, by the way, just for my kids. Hey, so I know there's obviously so much. There you go. There you go. That's my. What's that? 4 inches shorter than standard. Yeah, about mine. It's about mine. I think 4 degrees flat as well. While you're at it. So, obviously we've spoken a lot about Aaron Rai, which is great. And it's so nice that the three of us actually know him, and we've spent quite a good amount of time with him. And what a nice bloke. And I think we've definitely covered that. But obviously in the world of golf, there's been some other things that have happened. I think a good shout out to Lottie Woad as well for winning her second event now on the LPGA circuit. I think she's just outside the top 10 on the Rolex rankings, actually. So she is definitely trending in the right direction. And she's not long-term pro, so I've got a good feeling that she is going to be a significant player in the game of golf. Did you manage to catch anything about the ladies' golf, or were you just totally all consumed with the PGA?
Yeah, we had both on TV here in the UK. I don't know if you noticed that. So during the coverage of the PGA, they kind of kept showing split screens and said on the other channel was the LPGA. So I didn't watch it because I was sticking to the PGA. But second win, and when you look at her, it's I guess it's a little bit like Aaron. She was very, very good when she played for England. She was trending in the right direction, and she's moved through the levels, got onto the LPGA tour relatively quickly, won again. So she's on this upward trajectory. The next one really for her is a major. But there's at this stage no sign of her slowing down.
No, no ceiling there, is it?
Oh, absolutely. You don't know where that is. She'll be a major champion at some point.
She will be. I mean, she's already nearly won one or two of the majors already. So it's like she's right there in the mix. It's almost a matter of time, and she's got this huge, long career ahead of her. I just really feel like she's going to be something else as soon as she breaks through on that major circuit. And staying on the women's game, did you happen to follow the LET at all? Obviously, a really heartwarming story breaking out on that side of the, of the ladies' game.
Yeah, I saw a headline, so I'll let you give a few more details on it. But I did say that there was a a very emotional win.
Very. Yeah, so Leonie Harm, German golfer, when she was, I might need Lloyd just to remind us on this, but I'm pretty sure she was 17 years of age. This is a few years back now, and she got hit by a car, almost life-ending. I think she had something like a 1% chance of survival, but actually that 1% came through, survived, and last week, lo and behold, she actually broke through and won a ladies' European Tour event. I mean, it doesn't get much more heartwarming than that when you've been knocking on death's door to come back and actually get your name in lights after, I guess, seeing the headlights and not knowing if you're going to see the light while we're staying on the same subject. So I think phenomenal story. I mean, where else has that happened in the game of golf other than Ben Hogan back in the day?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that much about the story. I did see that headline, but I mean, you think the work you have to put in to be a world-class golfer, I mean, it's probably nothing compared to the work that she would have had to have put in probably rehab and physio to get back. I don't know the details of the story, but the chances are she didn't just get discharged from hospital and then back to normal life. So she would have gone through some dark times there, and she's obviously put a lot of work in to get back to the point where she can just probably function as a normal person, and then to go on and push forward and win. I mean, that must be emotional. I love golf has just a funny way of creating these beautiful stories, whether it's Aaron or whether it's her story, or whether it's Rory's Masters win, the Grand Slam, and double over in the first. It's just got these great stories, and it's it just makes me appreciate how good this sport is.
Oh, it really does, and in her particular case, just think about that Ben Hogan time. So back in the day, I think it was 1950 or 1951, he had a car accident, basically shattered the bones in his legs. And when he came over, which in 1953, I think it was, he came over for his only Open Championship and won it. But he had to sit in a bathtub for 2 hours every morning before play in an ice bath just to get his legs, reduce the swelling and get himself ready to play a round of golf that day. And he used to do that every day. So if Leonie was on the same sort of camp, I mean, hats off to go to that level of pain, suffering, and commitment to break all the way through. But I'll tell you what I do think, actually. This is a slight pivot, but I've been, she was 15 years old, by the way, hitting a car, not 17. And the car was going 70 kilometers an hour, and that was in the year 2013. So thanks once again, Lloyd, for the technical updates, which we always like to have because we don't know anything other than what we talk about in our heads. But one thing I do think when I'm thinking about a lot of these athletes and the ones that really break through, I definitely think there's a big similarity between those guys and people in business because, and you've heard Scotty Scheffler say, remember he said that thing about when he wins, he's euphoric for 5 minutes and then it's on to the next. I actually think to be that kind of person, it's more about pain threshold than it is about euphoria. So how much can you take? It's kind of like a psychological thing more than anything. And I think these players that break through in this way, and, I'm looking at the LET, I'm looking at Aaron Rai, I'm looking at all these situations around the world in sport, and it's the ones that can outlast everyone else. It's the one that can take the most beatings are the ones that go on to win. And I find it such a remarkable it's just remarkable to me. I can't sugarcoat it any other way. And I look at people in the business world or in the sports world, and the ones that give up early, well, of course you're not going to make it. The ones that change direction all the time, that, we spoke about Aaron and his consistency, the ones that are always searching and trying to find a new club or a new move in their swing or a new this and new that, they just never break through because they can't take the pain.
So here's a question for you then, because I was actually chatting I played golf with Kev last week.
Oh yeah,
and this kind of came up in conversation, and we were chatting about it. There's a couple of golfers who we know work hard. Alex Noren, works hard. There's always pictures going around of his wrists. And me and Kev were talking about when we were juniors, and he used to go to the golf course. I used to go to the golf course, and we would go and play 18 holes, hit balls, play another 18 holes, hit more balls until it was dark. And we were kind of saying how sometimes we will speak to people who are playing the game now, and they'll say something like, talking about your junior golf, and they go, you were working so hard as a junior to get as good as you can. And we were both saying, but we weren't working hard. If you'd have given me a choice on those days and said, Chris, you can do whatever you want to do, I would have chosen to play golf and hit balls. So my question to you is, when you see someone like a Bryson go to a tournament and he plays 18 holes and he goes to the range afterwards and he's there on his own and it's dark, is that hard work? Is he saying to himself when he comes off that round, like, the last thing I want to do is go and hit balls, but I'm going to make myself do it because I need to work hard? Or is he just that much in love with the game that that's what he wants to do? He wants to go and try and hit the ball better. Because I find that an interesting conversation. Are these guys, like, is Aaron harder working on paper he is, or is he actually just doing every day what he loves to do and what he would do at a choice?
I think that's actually almost two slightly separate things, because you start playing golf or football or whatever passion sport you follow, you get into it because you love it, because you enjoy it. That turns into love ultimately. And then you want to get better. So you practice harder and harder and harder. You do more and more and more. You're still very much in love with the game. But the heartbreak comes when you lose in a playoff, when you miss a cut, when you're 30 grand in the hole that year because you didn't win enough money, and you're trying to get from one layer to the next layer, and before you know it, you've 7 seasons deep and you still haven't progressed from the Challenge Tour to the European Tour. And I think it's your tolerance to take those emotional moments that creates the winners in the end, in the long run, like your Richard Blands, etc. But I don't think any of them really not love the game. Like, they love the game. It's just how much disappointment can you take around the thing that you love? It's almost like, I don't know, this is a terrible example, but like falling in love with a girl and she cheats on you all the time. Like, eventually you got to call it a day, right? Yeah. You might want to go back all the time, but it's pointless. It ain't going to work. You just keep going. But for some, I just think that the love and the pain almost go a little bit hand in hand. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to be honest with you. I think it just is what it is. Yeah,
that's good. Right, well, I know we're coming to the end here because it's coming up to an hour, but I've been wanting to ask you about this for the last few weeks, and we missed a podcast because it was bank holiday. Last week we didn't get on to it. This week's all been Aaron. I want to talk LIV because it's been in the news. Obviously, it's blown up in the news in the last few weeks, a month. I'm not close to it. I don't know. I only know what I read, and articles come out and people speculate on what might happen. I don't know if you're any closer to the topic, but everybody listening to this podcast now is probably going to know what's happened in that PIF have pulled the funding at the end of this year. I'm more interested to hear from you on what that might mean going forwards, because I think everybody's pretty up to speed with what's currently happening. But from all accounts, it wasn't making money. So are they looking for an investor or a group of investors? And if they find them, is the product going to change significantly? Are they going to be able to offer contracts to any of these players? I mean, do you know? Obviously, you don't know, but you got any insights?
I think I've probably got a few insights, but I wouldn't say that any of those insights would be hard, cold facts either. So I do think that things are very fluid at the moment, and I think anything could change on to be honest, on the tip-ins. But I would say, when we've seen the statements about the PIF pulling funding from LIV, that's not actually and technically true. They haven't pulled every pound of funding. There are still certain commitments that they'll be obliged to follow through on. So it's not a total, zero spend next year into LIV. I do think, though, LIV Golf has generated $100 million more revenue this year than they have last year. So they are making money. They're making a loss, but they're also making money. So they will be looking for potential investment partners, whether that's investment groups as in equity investors, whether that is additional sponsors to really come into the game. I do think that they do and they will generate even more revenue next year. It's just, are they going to keep going with a massive loss? Because you sign a player for 400 million, it's going to take you a while to pay that back. Now, I've always been a pretty big fan, I think, of LIV, and I think when you go to an event, the experience is second to none. It's definitely out there. It's amazing. I've always had a great time whenever I've gone to a LIV event. I do think when they changed to go to 54 holes to 72, it now started to become more normalized to the other tours, so the differentiation became less. However, it's the same players week in, week out. And places like South Africa, Australia, certain parts in Asia, they've really, really taken on board LIV, and they really love LIV. It's like the main talking point when it comes to golf in those countries. So there's huge appetite in certain parts of the world for LIV. Granted, not that much in America, not that much in the UK, but you go elsewhere and you will find a passionate fan base. Whether that's enough to bring in the revenue that's needed, I don't know. However, the one thing I was saying, everything's better in hindsight, right? We can always talk about that. I do think if you're LIV Golf, I don't know, not that I'm their advisor and I definitely wouldn't want to be, but if you think about it, they bring in these players, 400 million, 50 million there, 120 million there, whatever it is to bring in these contracts. These contracts are only 3 or 4 years long and there's no real asset beyond that. So if you were to do it again, what I think you would probably do is you would buy 14 golf courses in different parts around the world. You would invest heavily in those golf clubs to make them, I'm not saying iconic locations, but you'd want to build up those destinations, make them like your LIV Golf Stadium course, because then you can monetize those golf courses for 51 weeks of the year. And obviously that 52 is the LIV event. So the point being is now your asset, yes, you spent money, but now you can actually get an ROI on that money that you've spent. And LIV haven't really built a business model like that. You could argue that with the teams, there's investments going into the teams. So something like 9 out of the 14 teams or 13 teams, are profitable. But LIV as a league is not profitable. And I don't think will be profitable for a significant length of time. I think even the CEO said 5 to 10 years, it's unlikely to be profitable. So I think it depends on who's funding them in terms of, you go to the bank and who's their overdraft with. Is it with Barclays Bank or is it with a Saudi bank? Because depending on how much that can be backfilled, I think might determine how successful they are in the future. My prediction for next year, I think they'll probably have a smaller schedule to try and keep the prize fund as high as they can, but it wouldn't shock me if the prize fund fell down a little bit. So going from 25 million down to maybe 15 or something like that. But they will try and keep and hold face as long as they can. So they basically got to swim real quick right now and get as many investors and as many sponsors on board between now and January. That would be my feeling of what's going on that side of the pond.
I don't know how many of the players were contracted, like paid. Obviously, I know Bryson was, Rahm was, some of the bigger names was, but obviously some of the other ones wouldn't have been contracted. So my viewpoint, and look, I'm coming at this from a golf coach, and I know nothing about the business of LIV, but you start to, I don't know when Bryson's contract runs or when it's finished, but let's say it ends
this year. Yeah,
he's going to want to be paid basically because he was paid before. So if he wants 200 million for 3 years, surely that's your profit gone. If you're going to pay him, you're going to pay Rahm. So I can't see them, whoever comes in, if anyone comes in as investors, I can't see them paying Bryson 200 million, Rahm 150 million, Tyrrell 70 million, because then you're just going to say, well, we've got to work our asset off now for 4 years just to break even. So surely they're going to say to those players, I mean, I'm summarizing here, but we want you to play, but we can't pay you. And then they're just going to be like, well, what's the point?
Yeah, but there's ways around that, little cat. Basically, equity. You start accessing or giving them access to more and more equity of the league itself. That can entice players for sure. Because if you happen to get this right, it's always worth the risk more often than not from an equity perspective. Because let's hypothetically rewind the clock back to 1992, whatever it was. The Premier League gets formed. Imagine having equity in the Premier League back then.
Yeah, true.
So I think the equity position is how they'll lower out any financial outgoing in the short term, and then it'll all be tied to the success of the league, which is then in the player's best interest to make sure that they're playing, to make sure that in the likes of Bryson that he's putting out great content, that he uses his social audience for good, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think that there are ways to mitigate that in order to keep LIV functioning. But I would say right now, I mean, it's not on life support, LIV Golf, but it's in the hospital right now, and they're trying to assess what they need to do to get LIV Golf back on its feet and back out on the streets. Because right now it's, they've taken some big body blows.
So let's go 2028. Is LIV Golf still functioning?
That's the $1 million question, big guy. I'm going to say they will be functioning, but they could well be on life support by then. Yeah.
Okay.
Will they go, if it keeps going on this current trend, I don't think they'll get past 2030. But if they can shore up the revenue to at least be making a minimal loss year after year for the next, say, 3 years, I think they might end up finding a way to be okay. But it'll be okay. It won't be competitive to PGA Tour. I can't see that happening anytime soon, if at all. Let's see.
There you go.
There you go. Right, wrap it up, Bubs.
Well, that is it for the Dope Stroke. We will hopefully see you next week. We're working very hard behind the scenes on a guest who I think you're going to want to listen to. So we need to get that wrapped up. We might have to film on a different day, but hopefully we'll be back next week with an episode with a special guest. Massive, massive congratulations to Aaron Rai, who is now a major champion. It wouldn't surprise me to see him go on and win more, maybe not this year, but in the future to win more majors. Massive congrats to Piers, Nandi, and all of his team around. Dazza, thank you very much, and we will see you next week.